He was supposed to be the one, the face of the blue-collar champion, a jiu-jitsu prodigy from a gym in the middle of nowhere who took the grappling world by storm. Andrew Wiltse wasn't just another competitor, he was a phenomenon. With an aggressive, fan-pleasing style and a backstory that felt like it was ripped from a movie script, he was destined for legendary status. He was the standard-bearer for the iconic Daisy Fresh team, a man who literally lived and breathed jiu-jitsu, sleeping on the very mats he would make famous. His rise was meteoric, his potential seemed limitless. So how did it all go so terribly wrong? How does a celebrated champion, a hero to thousands, end up at the center of a terrifying public meltdown? This is the story of how a beloved prodigy's career unraveled in a storm of mental health crises, shocking legal troubles, and a series of broken relationships that tore apart one of the sport's most beloved teams. It's a stark warning about the crushing pressure of fame, the fragility of the human mind, and what happens when the fire that forges a champion begins to consume him. Section 1. The Prodigy. To understand the fall, you have to understand the rise. Andrew Wiltse's story doesn't start in some gleaming state-of-the-art facility. It starts on the remote Drummond Island in Michigan. His journey into martial arts began with judo, taught by a local black belt named Mike Ogden. The island's isolation meant training was often a one-on-one affair, building a rare focus and discipline in the young Wiltse. He was tough, relentless, and fueled by a quiet intensity. Everything changed after a bitter 10-second loss in a local MMA fight. That single stinging defeat lit a fire in him, a desperate need to master the art of grappling. This drive led him to the man who would orchestrate his ascent, Heath Pedigo. Pedigo ran a no-frills jiu-jitsu academy out of an old laundromat in Mount Vernon, Illinois. Pedigo Submission Fighting, a place that would soon gain worldwide fame as Daisy Fresh. Pedigo saw the raw, untapped potential in Wiltse and offered him a grappling scholarship. In 2013, Wiltse dropped everything, moved to Illinois, and submerged himself completely in jiu-jitsu. He lived in the gym, sleeping on the same mats where he trained for 8 hours a day, forging himself into a weapon. The Daisy Fresh environment was a pressure cooker, a collection of hungry outsiders all pushing each other toward greatness. Their gritty story was famously captured in a Flow Grappling documentary series, which turned the gym into a global sensation. And at the very heart of that story was Andrew Wiltse. His tear through the colored belt ranks was simply astonishing. He developed a ferocious, relentless style he called the buzzsaw pass, constantly attacking his opponent's guards and giving them zero room to breathe. He was a puzzle almost no one could solve. On his way to black belt, he conquered the IBJJF circuit, racking up an incredible 5 world championship titles at the blue, purple, and brown belt levels, along with multiple Pan-American championships. He was, without a doubt, a generational talent. In December 2019, Heath Pedigo promoted him to black belt. He was the first true star to emerge from the Daisy Fresh camp, the living proof that their hardcore methods could produce a world beater. And he didn't waste a second. As a rookie black belt in 2020, he won the prestigious Pan No-Gi Championship, running through a gauntlet of elite competitors. He followed that with huge wins on platforms like Who's Number One against established names. The shy kid from Drummond Island had become one of the most feared and respected grapplers on the planet. He was on top of the world, the undisputed king of his gritty, blue-collar kingdom. Section 2. The cracks appear. But the view from the top can be blinding, and the pressures of his newfound fame were starting to take their toll. While the Daisy Fresh documentary made Wiltse and his team famous, it also brewed up new and unexpected tensions. Behind the scenes of camaraderie and shared struggle, fault lines were beginning to form. Wiltse, always outspoken and brutally honest, started to clash with the team's direction. Ironically, one of the first major sticking points was YouTube. Andrew and his brother, Satya, known as Bird, launched their own channel to share techniques and document their journey. According to Wiltse, this was met with pushback from inside the team. He has alleged that they saw it as competition for the official Flow Grappling series and were eventually told they could no longer film their training sessions, the very lifeblood of their content. Disagreements over training methods and even social issues during the pandemic created more distance. Wiltse felt he was being slowly frozen out. In a revealing social media post years later, he claimed he was no longer invited on team trips, wasn't told about local tournaments, and was basically written out of the documentary that had made him a star. The final straw, he alleged, came when a popular BJJ personality wanted to film a collaboration with the Wiltse brothers at the gym, only to be told by other team members he wasn't welcome because he was a direct competitor. The tight-knit family forged in that old laundromat was starting to break apart. The man who was once the heart of Daisy Fresh was becoming an outsider in his own home. This growing isolation was made worse by a series of injuries. A significant back injury forced him out of major competitions, sidelining him for long stretches. Even when he returned to find success, the relentless grind was catching up to him, both physically and mentally. By 2022 and into 2023, the signs of a deeper struggle became obvious. Wiltse, who had always been open about his mental health, spoke candidly in an interview about going through one of the roughest years of his life. He described a severe, medication-induced manic episode that he said shattered his brain. He revealed his diagnosis of bipolar disorder and said this episode was unlike anything he'd ever experienced, leading to a week where he claims he genuinely did not sleep. The crippling depression that followed was just as devastating. He was still fighting, but the battle was no longer just on the mats. It was inside his own head. His social media became more and more erratic. Within the BJJ community, whispers started to circulate. The hairline fractures in his career and relationships were widening into a chasm, and he was standing dangerously close to the edge. Section 3. The Unraveling. What happened next was a shocking and tragic public unraveling, playing out in real time on social media for the entire world to see. From late 2023 through 2024, Andrew Wiltse's mental health crisis spiraled completely out of control, leading to legal trouble, the loss of his platform, and total alienation from the community that once worshipped him. The first public alarms were sounded not by Andrew, but by his brother, Bird. In a series of deeply concerned posts, Bird revealed that Andrew had been in a severe mental health crisis for months. Things hit a critical point in November 2024 when Andrew was arrested on Drummond Island. According to Bird, the arrest was chaotic and distressing, possibly for a psychiatric evaluation, though he also mentioned Andrew might have had outstanding warrants. During this time, Andrew's own online behavior grew increasingly destructive. He launched bizarre and aggressive tirades, making wild accusations and threats against some of the biggest names in jiu-jitsu. His posts were erratic, paranoid, and filled with venom. The threats of violence were so extreme that social media companies finally stepped in. One by one, his accounts were shut down. Instagram, Facebook, and eventually his original YouTube channel were all deplatformed, cutting him off from his fans and his livelihood. He was effectively exiled from the online world he had helped build. The crisis wasn't just contained online. In early 2025, Wiltse himself opened up about one of the most terrifying moments of his breakdown. He described how, during a manic episode, he was walking around town talking to himself, which led concerned locals to call the police. When officers arrived to take him to a hospital for evaluation, the situation escalated dramatically. According to his own account, he tried to leave the hospital, leading to a physical struggle with around 10 police officers, security guards, and medical staff. He recalled how his grappler's strength made him incredibly difficult to restrain. A taser was used, which Wiltse claimed had little effect on him in his heightened state. He even described disarming an officer of their taser before it was over. The struggle only ended after he was finally held down and sedated. It was a raw, stunning confession that painted a vivid picture of just how far he had fallen. The fallout didn't stop there. He entered into a bitter legal dispute with the instructional giant, BJJ Fanatics. During his episode, he had declared war on the company, claiming they were removing his content in violation of their contract. He filed a small claims lawsuit to sever ties. The conflict escalated when, according to Wiltse, BJJ Fanatics issued copyright strikes against videos on his new YouTube channel, threatening his last remaining platform. In just a few short months, Andrew Wiltse had gone from a celebrated world champion to a man in crisis, isolated from his team, banned from his platforms, and drowning in legal and personal battles. The downfall was no longer a possibility, it was a brutal public reality. Section 4. The Aftermath and the Future. In the wake of the storm, the landscape of Andrew Wiltse's life has been permanently altered. The fallout from his public crisis has been immense. And yet, amidst the wreckage, there are small, tentative signs of rebuilding. Professionally, Wiltse is starting from zero. Stripped of his social media empire and fighting with BJJ Fanatics, he's turned to a new, independent YouTube channel as his main lifeline. In early 2025, he started uploading again, sharing not only his harrowing stories but also the jiu-jitsu content that made him famous in the first place. He addressed his absence directly on Reddit, stating with brutal honesty, "I had a severe, understatement, manic episode with super high psychosis insanity, said and did a bunch of insane and not okay stuff while crazy, and got my old channel removed." He's expressed a desire to remake his popular instructionals and sell them himself, a clear move away from the established platforms that once defined his career. A Patreon coaching service has helped ease some of the financial burden of his professional exile. There's a sense of cautious optimism in his recent updates. He's spoken about reconnecting with people he thought he'd lost forever. Perhaps most importantly, he shared that his relationship with his mother has been repaired, and they now talk on the phone every day. He's also indicated that he and his brother Bird are talking again, a hopeful sign that their fractured bond may one day mend. Andrew Wiltse's story is a powerful reminder of the unseen battles many athletes face. If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health, please know there are resources available and that asking for help is a sign of strength. And if you're finding this story compelling, please consider liking this video and subscribing. It helps us continue to tell these important stories.